had females selling their daughters, people selling their bodies. But now I'm seeing people doing all kinds of crazy movement.
If you do too much of it, it'll take your breath, your air. You seen one guy down, thought he was dead.
Right.
I've explored so many places, more times than I can count.
So I actually want to start a podcast.
In America alone, I've walked through areas like Kensington and the streets of Skid Row, a place once connected to the idea of the city of dreams. But this place feels different. Here in Vancouver, Canada, something is happening that many people around the world are still trying to understand. On certain streets, people appear frozen in place. Others slowly bend forward, struggling to stay upright. And every day, emergency responders are called to reverse another overdose. So the question becomes unavoidable. What drugs are doing this to people? How did this crisis begin? Why has it become so visible here? And why has the government chosen not to put an end to the crisis? In this documentary, we break down the science behind the drugs, policies meant to control the crisis, and the global supply chain that continues feeding it. Because the reality behind Vancouver's streets is far more complicated than it first appears.
You know, I hope those people that pass those laws end up in my shoes someday and realize that they've made a terrible mistake.
Welcome to Inspire Hub. In Vancouver, Canada, there is a neighborhood that many people now associate with one of the most visible drug crises in the developed world. It is called Downtown Eastside.
So for myself, personally, in the last 2 years, I responded to 31 drug overdoses. One Friday, we had 103 overdoses. And then a week later, we had 12 people die in the city of Vancouver.
Only a few blocks wide, this area has become the center of the city's drug and homelessness crisis. Walking through these streets, the first thing you notice is the number of individuals struggling with addiction. Some sit quietly on sidewalks, some move slowly, barely able to stay balanced. Others appear frozen in place for minutes at a time. For outsiders seeing this for the first time, the scenes can be difficult to understand. But for many residents of Vancouver, this has become part of daily life. Paramedics respond to overdose calls here almost every day. Emergency workers carry a medication called naloxone, used to reverse opioid overdoses. Without it, many overdoses would quickly become fatal. Over the past decade, the situation has grown so serious that the province of British Columbia declared the opioid crisis a public health emergency. Despite years of government programs, medical responses, and law enforcement efforts, the streets of this neighborhood continue to show the visible impact of the crisis. And the question many people keep asking is simple. How did this happen in one of the most developed countries in the world?
Going down any path, the most you have in this addiction, sorry, I'm gonna look for my phone for a second, is you can go and you can be an addict. It's one thing to be an addict and be independent like I am right now. It's another thing to be held under somebody's thumb. The thumb, the analogy that is like fentanyl. Like girls will go and think, I can't leave him because he gives me all my fetty, you know, like, yes, you can leave him. You can be independent on your own. It's harder, but it's easier to leave that cycle than it is to be held under somebody's thumb. Not with meth, with fentanyl, with any fucking drug. Do not let the men hold that above you, and know that if you're strong and independent on your own, it starts getting easier. It starts way getting easier, and you know yourself, and you know, like, I can hold it down no matter what. And that confidence in you will help build that addiction out of, you know.
To understand why the crisis on the streets of Vancouver looks this way today, we have to go back several decades. Because this story did not begin with fentanyl. It began with prescription painkillers. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, doctors across North America began prescribing powerful opioid medications to treat pain. Drugs like OxyContin, morphine, and hydromorphone became widely available. At the time, many medical professionals believed these medications could help patients manage long-term pain safely. But opioids work in a very specific way inside the human brain. They attach to receptors that control pain, and at the same time, release large amounts of dopamine, the chemical linked to pleasure and reward. That combination can make opioids extremely addictive. Over time, thousands of patients who originally received these medications for legitimate medical reasons began developing dependency. As governments and regulators started tightening control over prescription opioids, many people who had become dependent on them began searching for alternatives, and that alternative was often heroin. By the early 2000s, heroin had become increasingly common in many Canadian cities, including Vancouver. But the drug landscape was about to change again, because around the middle of the last decade, a new type of drug began flooding the illegal market, a synthetic opioid known as fentanyl. Unlike heroin, fentanyl is not derived from plants. It is manufactured in laboratories, and it is dramatically more powerful. Fentanyl can be 50 times stronger than heroin, and about 100 times stronger than morphine, which means even an extremely small amount can shut down a person's breathing. As fentanyl began appearing in street drugs, often mixed in without the user even knowing, overdose deaths started rising rapidly, and cities like Vancouver began seeing the devastating effects. Many of the substances being sold today are no longer traditional drugs like heroin. Instead, they are powerful synthetic chemicals. Once fentanyl enters the bloodstream, it travels quickly to the brain. There, it attaches to structures known as opioid receptors. These receptors normally help regulate pain, but when fentanyl activates them, two major effects begin happening at the same time. First, the brain releases a large surge of dopamine. This produces the intense feeling of euphoria that makes opioids addictive. But the second effect is far more dangerous. Fentanyl begins slowing the part of the brain responsible for breathing. As the drug spreads through the nervous system, breathing becomes slower and weaker. Oxygen levels in the body begin to drop. And when the brain is no longer receiving enough oxygen, the body starts losing normal muscle control. This is one reason people sometimes appear to bend forward or struggle to stay upright on the street. Their nervous system is no longer functioning normally. But fentanyl is not the only substance appearing in the illegal drug supply. In recent years, another chemical has started showing up in drug samples across North America, a veterinary sedative known as xylazine. Xylazine was never designed for human use. It is commonly used by veterinarians to sedate large animals. When mixed with opioids, it can produce extreme sedation. Users may remain partially conscious, but lose the ability to control their posture or movement.
Xylazine, you may have heard of it before. It's a drug often mixed with fentanyl.
The Drug Enforcement Agency says about 30% of the fentanyl that they take off the streets has xylazine in it.
The synthetic drugs have really changed the game, and it's just made the drug trade that much more deadly. It's a public health, it's a public safety issue because people don't know what they're ingesting.
Mulcahy says xylazine is an animal tranquilizer. What makes it so dangerous? It's resistant to Narcan.
Xylazine, because it's not an opiate, the Naloxone is not effective against it. So it's, we're already in a crisis with fentanyl, and this is just making the drug that much more deadly.
People are mixing it with fentanyl to get kind of a sedative effect on top of that opiate effect that you get with fentanyl where you don't feel anything. It goes through waves as new, like xylazine, as new mixtures come out, you get new waves of people and it kind of ebbs and flows with that.
Xylazine typically comes from China, then it's mixed with fentanyl in Mexico.
This combination can create the unusual body positions often seen on the streets. Even more concerning is the appearance of an extremely potent fentanyl variant known as carfentanil. Carfentanil is so strong that it is used to tranquilize elephants. It can be thousands of times stronger than morphine. In humans, even microscopic amounts can be deadly. These substances are now part of the unpredictable drug supply circulating in many cities, which means users often have no way of knowing exactly what they are taking.
I was sober and I was pregnant, and so I went to I was just talking to people online. I did OnlyFans. It seems like a really good, stable thing to do, but you meet a lot of very you don't seem like it's like they're dangerous or anything. And then I met a friend from a friend long time ago when I was in high school. He hit me up. He said, "Hey, I know you're doing OnlyFans. I have a bunch of equipment. I have a bunch of stuff." I said, "Okay." I went down there. It seemed all fine. It seemed all fine to do. He had the equipment. He had the stuff. And so I started smoking with him. He's like, "Hey, smoke this crack." I was like, "Sure, go ahead." Crack. And I was like, "Okay." I tried it. I loved it. And then it made me feel good. It made me feel like I was more, what is it called? Like I was hotter, like I was sexier, like I was more free in myself. And I didn't have that confidence.
As overdose deaths continued rising across Canada, health officials in Vancouver began searching for ways to prevent more people from dying. Because the reality on the streets had become impossible to ignore. People were injecting drugs in alleyways, in public parks, and sometimes directly on sidewalks. Many overdoses were happening in places where no one was around to help. So, in 2003, the city of Vancouver introduced something that had never been done before in North America. A supervised injection facility known as Insight. Inside this facility, people who are addicted to drugs are allowed to bring their own substances and inject them under medical supervision. Nurses and trained staff remain nearby. Clean needles are provided. And if an overdose happens, medical workers can immediately administer naloxone. Naloxone works by rapidly blocking opioid receptors in the brain, reversing the effects of drugs like fentanyl.
Fentanyl is an opiate, and what it does is it shuts down your respiratory system. So pretend that like this is fentanyl coming in your system, right? So when you shoot someone up with Narcan, it's like a wall goes up, and so the fentanyl hits the wall. It can't keep on going. The more Narcan you put into the system, the bigger that wall gets.
Why can't authorities just stop the drugs from entering the country? The answer lies in the way modern synthetic drugs are produced and distributed. Unlike traditional drugs such as heroin or cocaine, many of the substances driving today's opioid crisis are not grown in fields. They are manufactured in laboratories. One of the most important of these substances is fentanyl. Because of this potency, traffickers do not need to move large shipments. A small package can contain thousands of doses, which makes detection far more difficult for border officials and law enforcement. Another factor is the global nature of the supply chain. In the early years of the opioid crisis, many fentanyl chemicals were produced by laboratories in China. Some of these chemicals were shipped directly to North America. Others were sent to criminal networks in Mexico, where they were processed into finished fentanyl products and then smuggled across borders. Over time, production methods have continued evolving. Today, fentanyl and similar synthetic opioids can be manufactured in multiple regions around the world. This constantly changing supply chain makes enforcement extremely difficult. And because fentanyl is so cheap to produce, it has largely replaced heroin in many illegal markets, which means the drug landscape has fundamentally changed. Stopping the crisis is no longer just about stopping one substance. It now involves an entire network of synthetic drugs that can be created almost anywhere. By now, the streets of Vancouver have become one of the most visible symbols of the opioid crisis in North America. What began decades ago with prescription painkillers evolved into heroin and eventually into powerful synthetic drugs like fentanyl. Drugs so strong that even tiny amounts can shut down the human body. Governments have tried different approaches: law enforcement, public health programs, supervised injection facilities, and harm reduction strategies designed to prevent deaths. Yet the crisis continues to challenge communities, policymakers, and healthcare systems, because addiction is not a problem with a single cause. It is a complex intersection of biology, mental health, housing instability, and the global drug trade. For many people living on the streets, the struggle is not simply about drugs, it is about survival. And while cities like Vancouver continue searching for solutions, the reality is that no single policy has been able to fully stop the crisis. For now, the streets remain a reminder of how complicated this issue truly is. So note, this story is not over yet. How it ends is up to the addicts and the Government of Canada. Thanks for watching.